Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Joshua Barnes, coming to you live from the Firstpost studios. First, let's take a look at the headlines. Russia says it is not dropping its key demand for Ukraine to pull out of its eastern Donbass region ahead of three-way talks between Ukrainian, Russian and American officials in the UAE. Iran's foreign minister slams Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky after he commented in Davos that the deadly crackdown on protests in Iran shown that if authorities kill enough people, they stay in power. French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu survives a no-confidence vote following his move to force his budget through Parliament. It's a symbolic victory, as more such challenges are expected in the future. Uganda's army chief, the son of newly re-elected President Yoweri Museveni, says that 30 opposition supporters have been killed and 2,000 have been detained in the wake of the disputed general election. And Malaysia says it has restored access to Elon Musk's Grok chatbot after the AI tool was blocked nearly 2 weeks ago over concerns about AI-generated sexualized deepfakes. Hello and welcome. Our top story today is from Zimbabwe. White farmers in the southern African country have turned to US President Donald Trump for help. They have sought Trump's intervention in getting $3.5 billion that the Zimbabwean government owes them. What is this compensation for? And how is Donald Trump involved in it? Well, let's break it down. The dispute dates back to the year 2000. Zimbabwe's then President Robert Mugabe had signed a controversial land expropriation program. It was supposed to redistribute land to disadvantaged black Zimbabweans to boost equity and agricultural development. But it turned out to be a failure. Between the years 2000 and 2001, the government seized land from some 4,000 white farmers. The land seizures were at times forceful, violent, and even deadly. At least 7 farmers were killed. The country's economy was weakened as well. Farming output dropped significantly, causing food supply chains to dry up. The political elite, including Mugabe's family, was involved in corruption. They acquired large swathes of land for rent. After the major program failure and deadly violence, several Western nations, including the United States, sanctioned Zimbabwe. In 2017, Mugabe was removed from office and President Emerson Mnangagwa took charge. Then, in 2020, the government agreed to pay white farmers compensation of $3.5 billion. But the government has consistently missed payment deadlines because of economic constraints. And it was not before last year that the Zimbabwean government sprung into action. In April 2025, the government announced that it had finally started paying compensation to the affected white farmers. The action was some 25 years late. But there was a Trump factor involved here. The move came just a few days after Trump imposed an 18% tariff on Zimbabwe. Later in August, it was reduced to 15%. But right after Trump slapped tariffs on Zimbabwe, the country took quick action decisions to seemingly appease him. And one of them was ending tariffs on all imports from the US.
In the spirit of constructing a mutually beneficial and positive relationship with the United States of America, under the leadership of President Trump, I will direct the Zimbabwean government to implement a suspension of all tariffs levied on goods originating from the United States. This measure is intended to facilitate the expansion of American imports within the Zimbabwean market while simultaneously promoting the growth of Zimbabwean exports destined for the United States.
And coming back to the white farmers, problems regarding the compensation still remain. They have accused the government of paying way less than what it had claimed, which is why the farmers have now sought Trump's help. A US lobbying group has vowed to present the case of the farmers before American officials and to actively secure Washington's support for facilitating the payment of compensation. Donald Trump has long claimed that white farmers in South Africa have faced discrimination. He even went to make unsubstantiated claims of a so-called white genocide in South Africa. One of the reasons why Trump imposed a 30% tariff on Pretoria has been its land reform laws. Pretoria introduced the laws to redress the legacy of apartheid, but Trump called them racist. While the US president has reduced overall refugee admissions, he has given priority to Afrikaners who allegedly faced discrimination in South Africa. Will Donald Trump take a similar action for the Zimbabwean white farmers who are seeking his help? Well, joining us to explore this further is Patrick Bond, a political economist and distinguished professor at the University of Johannesburg, joining us live from Johannesburg. Welcome to First Post Africa.
Yeah, it's good to be with you. Thank you, Joshua.
Could you provide us some context of how this issue is being seen domestically within Zimbabwe and also in the wider Southern Africa region?
Well, because white farming dominance, along with control of much of business until around 2000, really meant that Robert Mugabe, the former president who was overthrown in a 2017 coup by Emerson Mnangagwa, he really was not his own man. He couldn't really move on the land. It was in the year 2000 that after he lost this constitutional referendum, that he realized that one of the strategies would be a left-wing populist land reform approach. And look, to be frank, they did distribute about 250,000 households some access to white farmers' land. There were about 4,000 white farmers at peak, and it went down to about 900. A few hundred have come back since Mnangagwa has been more conciliatory. But that means, as you've said, the corrupt elites who've mismanaged the farms haven't brought the agricultural sector back up to where it was. I must say the one exception being tobacco, and the Chinese market really opened up. So I think because most of these white farmers, having now 26 years of being basically thrown off the land that they had occupied since about 1890 in their kith and kin, their heritage. But there are so few of them still left, and most of those in their 60s, 70s, 80s. And so it's really a question of whether they're going to get cash, and that means US dollars, not Zimbabwean bonds or the Zimbabwe gold currency, which isn't much use. And that means, I think, probably many of the people who are really suffering, especially with very severe climate change impacts, probably won't be very happy to see these few farmers getting such a large amount, $3.5 billion, if that deal is ever brought to consummation. So far, I understand it's about $300 million that's been really earmarked, and only a few million have been handed over. And don't forget, Zimbabwe has a $21 billion foreign debt that it can't service. It's in default.
Patrick, I want to look at potential intervention from US President Donald Trump, given the fact that discussions over tariffs have been constructive between Zimbabwe and the US. Do you see Trump taking a similar line to the one that he has with Ramaphosa and their government over white farmers in the country and alleged mistreatments?
Well, again, because the numbers are so small, I doubt it. And of course, the geopolitical relationships are much different. Don't forget that it was when South Africa was beginning its G20 hosting about a year ago that Trump really started to come down hard. And his foreign minister, Marco Rubio, said that the themes of the G20 that was held here last November were basically alienating to this right-wing Trump regime. And I think the main problem for Zimbabwe is they just don't have any, the white Zimbabwean farmers, any similar clout to go against the government the way here in South Africa, about 67,000 white farmers. And the white farmers especially trying to negotiate for Afrikaner minority rights, cultural rights and language rights, and to stop any potential expropriation of their land. That it really is it's a very, very different context. And I think what we've been seeing in the business press is some alarm raised that the Trump government may be called in by these lobbyists that are close to him, working free for white Zimbabwean farmers. But wow, we've got so many other things, and so does Donald Trump, isn't he? Scattered around the world with many sites of conflict. Probably Zimbabwe isn't going to be one for a while unless his MAGA base really wants to ramp up their own sort of racially tinged arguments about why whites need to be protected from blacks. I mean, that's something you probably will find as a constant in some of that US politics.
And Patrick, to finish, I want to look more broadly at the region and Trump's words and actions. Does this topic and discussion in Zimbabwe in any way validate some of Trump's comments on the treatment of white people in the wider region? Hello, Patrick. Just double checking you can still hear me.
Yes, I'm with you.
Yes, so just to repeat what I said.
Yeah, I think actually it is.
Sorry, after you.
And I think the main problem is that Donald Trump has played race politics, and he has done it in a very crude way, and he continues to do it, even in Davos this week. And his attempt to say there's a white genocide has left him with zero credibility. The dilemma is that you do have quite a few people in the region that want to do deals, and our South African trade minister and some of the businessmen, especially in iron and steel and aluminium and cars and some of the areas that were hard hit. And I must say, Afrikaner farmers probably want to get better access, since they were suddenly hit with a 30% tariff on their vineyard products, the wine and the grapes. So it's quite complicated and full of contradictions, as you'd expect. I don't think the factors of Zimbabwe's long tradition of trying to get some social justice in the rural areas, but at the same time having done it so badly from the year 2000 with the Jambanja land reform and the production of output going down very steeply and U.S. aid coming in. This is a very mixed record. It's not the kind of record that anyone really can be proud of, and I think Donald Trump is going to stumble if he tries to get involved in both Zimbabwean and South African land reform issues.
Patrick Bond, thank you ever so much for joining us and providing such great insights.
Thank you.
Our next story is from Somalia's breakaway region of Somaliland. The self-declared republic is trying to win Trump's support, while the US president grows more and more hostile towards Somalia. Somaliland's president was in Davos this week, and on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum, he met with Donald Trump's son, Eric Trump. He is a top figure in the Trump family's sprawling business portfolio, spanning from real estate to crypto. Also in attendance was Israeli President Isaac Herzog. Last month, Israel became the first UN nation to recognise Somaliland, sparking global backlash. During the closed-door meeting, Somaliland's president reportedly outlined investment opportunities in the region, especially in the strategic Berbera port. Somaliland's leader said that the meeting went very well, and he posted pictures on X.
Last night in Davos, on the sidelines of the World Economic Forum, I met with the President of the State of Israel, Isaac Herzog, at a high-level dinner. Our discussions focused on strengthening and advancing bilateral relations between the Republic of Somaliland and the State of Israel. I also met Eric Trump, an influential global figure and son of the President of the United States, as well as other senior global political figures and international leaders.
And the timing of this meeting is worth noting. While Donald Trump targeted Somali Americans and Somalia in his speech, Somaliland's president took the opportunity to grow closer to Trump's family and close ally Israel.
That Somalia, they turned out to be higher IQ than we thought. I always say these are low IQ people. How do they go into Minnesota and steal all that money? The situation in Minnesota reminds us that the West cannot mass import foreign cultures, which have failed to ever build a successful society of their own. I mean, we're taking people from Somalia, and Somalia is a failed, it's not a nation, got no government, got no police, got nothing.
Last month, when Israel recognised Somaliland, Trump initially denied backing Benjamin Netanyahu's move. He said, and I quote, "Does anyone know what Somaliland is, really?" But later, his envoy to the UN backed Israel's decision and even compared it to the recognition of Palestine.
Colleagues, meetings such as today's distract from serious work to address issues of international peace and security, including in both the Middle East and the Horn of Africa. Israel has the same right to conduct diplomatic relations as any other sovereign state.
Meanwhile, Somalia condemned Israel's move and said that it would threaten regional stability. The Somali government has been in Trump's line of fire. He has accused Mogadishu of aid theft and stopped all US assistance. Somalia is also on Trump's travel ban list. Back in the US, he has ended temporary protected status for Somali immigrants and issued a March 17th deadline for them to return to their country. Trump's growing antipathy for Somalia is no secret, and the breakaway region of Somaliland is seemingly trying to capitalise on it. Now it remains to be seen if the US will follow its close ally Israel's suit. Will the Trump administration recognise Somaliland? And what will it mean for Somalia and the Horn of Africa? Vladimir Putin is moving deeper into the Sahel, this time not with troops or mercenaries, but through how the Sahel states communicate and defend their borders. For the first time ever, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger are planning a shared communications satellite, one designed to operate outside Western control, and Russia says it is ready to build it. Burkina Faso's Prime Minister held talks with Russia's ambassador on launching a Russian-built telecommunications satellite. Reports say the project would serve the alliance of Sahel states, linking Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger through a single shared platform. Officials say this would not be a national satellite, but rather a shared asset, owned and used collectively by the Alliance for the AES. Analysts say this is a strategic upgrade, as the gains go far beyond technology. It would expand broadband and mobile connectivity in remote areas, where infrastructure is nearly non-existent. It would enable secure, encrypted communications for governments and armed forces. And through remote sensing, it would support border monitoring, surveillance and disaster response in areas where ground infrastructure barely exists. This is not a sudden move, as it builds on years of quiet coordination between the Sahel states and the Kremlin. In September 2024, ministers from Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso reportedly met officials from Russia's space agency Roscosmos in Bamako. Those talks focused on joint telecommunications and surveillance satellites designed to support security operations and civilian infrastructure. The stated goal was clear: reduce dependency on Western systems and tighten control over regional security. The satellite push comes as the alliance is rebuilding its entire security architecture. In December 2025, Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger launched the AES, a 5,000-strong joint military force with headquarters based in Niamey, the capital of Niger. The force is commanded by Burkina General Daouda Traoré. Its mandate includes joint air operations, intelligence sharing and cross-border offensives against terrorist groups, an issue the region has repeatedly been persistently dealing with. According to the United Nations, the Sahel now accounts for half of all global terrorism deaths. However, regional leaders blame the crisis on years of foreign intervention.
Some detractors hope to see Mali collapse. They wanted to see the Malian people on their knees, divided and weakened. Today, those on the side of the terrorist groups operating in our region are the French junta and the Algerian junta.
Well, analysts say a dedicated satellite would give the Sahel states a sharper eye on threats, faster response times against terrorist groups, and Moscow has been open about where it stands.
Terrorist threats and high activity of illegal armed groups remain present in the countries of the Alliance of Sahel States. We support your position on the necessity of strengthening the security, the defense of territories and the sovereignty. The Russian Defense Ministry is ready to provide all-round assistance for ensuring stability in the region.
And Russia was also the first country to formally recognise the Alliance of Sahel States. Analysts say this deepening partnership comes as Western influence in the region continues to collapse. French forces have withdrawn from Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger. The United States has imposed visa restrictions on all three, met with reciprocal bans. Niger has stripped France's Orano of its uranium mining rights, shifting preference towards Russian firms. All three AES states have also withdrawn from the International Criminal Court, calling it a biased Western institution. If the satellite deal moves forward, it will mark another decisive step by Sahel states to cut dependence on the West. For Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger, analysts say the goal is clear: control their own eyes, ears and signals in space, and as Western influence fades, Russia has emerged as their partner of choice. And for our final story, Mali's military leader is strengthening his grip on the country's gold industry. With direct control over the vital sector, that struggled in 2025 under strict rules. Mali's interim president, Assimi Goïta, has created a new ministerial-level role to oversee the sector and has appointed a former executive of the global Barrick mining company in the position. And legal documents show that the new minister will have powers to supervise mining policy implementation, monitor compliance with the mining code, and review reports submitted by title holders. These responsibilities were all previously handled by the Ministry of Mines. According to a January 19th presidential decree, Hilary Bebian Diarra, an earth science specialist, has been appointed to the role. The Malian national had been named as a special advisor to the presidency during a bitter dispute over Mali's top industrial gold mine with Barrick. In November 2025, Barrick Gold agreed to pay approximately $420 million, resolving a 2-year dispute over taxes. Now, gold in Mali is big business. Analysts say that the sector makes up for nearly 10% of the country's GDP, while it contributes more than 70% of the national export earnings. And the sector is a critical growth pillar. Tens of thousands of Malians are employed in the mines, processing plants and in support roles. Foreign investment has been substantial, with multinational companies seeking to capitalise on the reserves, while it has driven infrastructure projects in the country like roads, energy and water. But in 2025, industrial gold outputs took a hit, dropping by 23%, in part due to a tighter mining code introduced in 2023, which was a key point of contention in the Barrick gold dispute. The military rulers have sought to strengthen their grip on the mining sector, and this latest move is another example of that. Assimi Goïta overthrew then-President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta in August of 2020. A second coup in May 2021 consolidated then-Vice President Goïta's power. The military leader Goïta then effectively became head of state. Before, in 2025, he was handed a renewable 5-year mandate as the transitional president. Goïta's policies have focused on nationalistic sovereignty, breaking with France and seeking closer ties with Russia in several areas.
This area of cooperation covers several fields, including defense and security, transport, the economy, agriculture, energy, and mining. Today, we have to recognize that thanks to cooperation with Russia, particularly in the areas of defense and security.
And this latest move in the mining sector is another example of his enforcement of economic nationalisation, with the presidency now leading mining oversight, key exploitation permits and contract talks are run by the military rulers. This means the presidency will decide exactly who is given rights to mine gold. It covers the whole process from exploration to active commercial production. Mali's military leader has now ultimate control over a vital sector. The question now is, who wins from this move? Will it open up fresh investment from partners like Russia? Could Mali be set for a major boost in an industry that is coming off a tough year? Only one man will have the final say, and that's Assimi Goïta. Well, that's all we have on the show for today. We'll see you again at the same time on Monday. Until then, thank you for watching.